this whole thing about technical perfection and really communication, like what is more important, or what is the balance rather, because I don't think you can really weigh one out. Through your technique you communicate, so where's the balance between that technique and when do you start really expressing yourself or expressing what needs to be expressed, um, what the story is trying to say or what the art is trying to say. And I remember I had a really moving experience once after one of my performances. Um, and it was a very simple, like some of the pieces were quite easy technically, and some of them were not so easy. And it wasn't, the performance didn't go how I wanted it to. Like there were a lot of things I went back and I was like, yeah, that could have been better, or we could have done this more justice. And I was quite disappointed at the end of it. But the nature of the performance was we were walking out and we interacted with a lot of the audience on the way out. And this one man came up to me like later after I'd like finished talking to everybody. He came up and he had tears in his eyes and he said, I've been having such a difficult week, and this has really helped me. you know and at that moment I started to tear up because I was like, what, like I need to change how I perceive things. I perceived it in this way, but this man took something away from it. So I'm glad that this happened, and I feel honored to have had that happen through me. you know so I think what it's amazing that you go with this mentality of that the communication is what is important and that it needs to reach the people. Actually, would you want to build on that? Like Vivek, what would you have to say on this? Because
Yeah, I think one thing is us feeling comfortable with each other is the first thing when we are on stage. And so we've already gone through things that we want to present and we want to do on stage. So the other thing is, I think, to keep it as natural as possible for us and not make it like a very artificial kind of thing where we say one dialogue and then cut, next dialogue and then cut, one line I'll sing and then cut. No, if you make some mistakes or if there's some speech you get cut or you sing a little bit of the wrong notes, it's fine. It's more the emotion, or it's more what feeling comes out at that moment. If I'm enjoying myself singing a particular phrase over something that was more technically correct, I would put the phrase that was good, that I felt that I'm enjoying more. So we have a responsibility towards the audience, people who are coming, and we completely respect their time and value their time, which is why we want to make sure that every moment that they spend listening to us, watching us, is in a way engaging, and it's useful in some way. But at the same time, no pressure of being very rigid about things. It should be natural on stage. It should be natural how it comes out. And we rely very strongly, I think, on our training and what we've been doing at home. And these things come out more effortlessly. The more times that it comes out effortlessly and with emotion and with the feelings that we want to express to each other and to people, I think that is where it translates into something beautiful, rather than technically being, this is exactly what has to happen. And those things will fall into place once you do enough number of things together. What's going to happen. But if you're not comfortable that day, or something is not mentally okay, and this applies for any performance, and at some point you have to be satisfied with the kind of output that you give, because it's not going to be 100% every day. There will be some days where you go down, but then you don't necessarily look at the two or three people who point at you technically saying that this may have been better. That's fine, take it in your stride. But there are other 100 people, 90 people who are saying beautiful things, and that really, I think, gets us to where we want to be, take new projects. And the fact that you are saying continue doing something like this, or somebody else says why don't you do this concept or this, that just motivates us to do more.
wonderful. I'm gonna again pick off what everything like you guys have said and add on to the question that I was going to ask, and we've naturally come on to again. Uh, I wanted to actually ask you about the feedback that you've been getting and how that has fed into your artistic, innovation and creativity, or whatever feedback you've got, and how that may have motivated you. But I'm going to add on because we've had this wonderful conversation about expressivity and how you give. I think, from my perspective, there are two ways you can look at expressivity. One is the emotion that wells up in you as an artist while you're performing, and the other is the reception of what you're giving by the audience, which can very often, it can be same, similar, but of course they're taking it from their perspective, obviously. So they will latch on to that which connects with them most deeply. And so, what is your take on this? And how can you, as artists, and having experienced this yourselves, can you talk about your experiences of this happening in your journey through this project? And the second thing I'd also like you to touch upon is how the feedback has made you realize and be more creative, or whatever else it may have inspired in you.
I think when we think of feedback, one of the things that I come across very often in the performing arts space is that it suddenly feels like an external validation or an external potential spear which could poke. So feedback is always received with that, oh, okay, what's going to come my way, and that kind of closes people up. But whenever we've received feedback, I think it's been very, 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 it's given to us in a certain way. We have largely been very fortunate in terms of the way people have responded, saying this has touched me, and do more of this and stuff like that. But I think more than that, one of the things that we've also been conscious on is to actually see what people want and respond accordingly. So, for example, when we did Dhatri, we're very particular that the episode shouldn't be so long that people drone out saying, you know what, I can't, this is just too much. So we kept each episode to, I think, a maximum of 12 or 13 minutes, right, Vivek? And at the end of the series, when we put out a note saying, guys, we're recording the final episode, and we want to do it a little bit longer, the amount of responses that came in saying, you should do it for 3 times as long, and we will happily listen. I think when feedback came at a time like that, it also showed us that, there is an actual rapport with people outside there that we may not be seeing or talking to or interacting, but there is some strong communication going on. And I think that's when we built on it. And when we finally put the final episode of Dhatri together, we trusted that, saying, you know what, it's okay to go deep now because people have established that connection with us. So I think when we look at feedback as a regulatory mechanism that kind of reminds us that it's not just our idea and we are forcing it upon the world. This is one of the things Vivek mentioned earlier as well, that we're not just, we think it's cool, so we're doing it. No, we're also very conscious to make sure that people should feel like, I want to receive this content. I want to receive this performance now. So I think that has helped us in the way we look at feedback in particular. That's what I would say. Vivek, what about you?
Yeah, in terms of feedback, I think a lot of the best feedback comes from the people who really care about us and what we are doing.
Yeah.
So that is at home. At home, we get feedback. We get feedback from our friends and people who really care about where this is going and what they want to listen to. So those are, some of that is very important. Like, for instance, one thing in the same series, Dhatri, when we first started off with something like, we did about the elephant, we did about the Kadamba tree. So when we were doing that, we got some feedback saying that you guys need to interact a little bit more. You can't just be doing your own thing. And, but we never thought that wouldn't be such a telling factor at that point. And we were comfortable with each other. That was a different thing. But then, the fact that involvement with each other's thing more on the screen makes more of a difference for people. That is something that we learned from there, and we kind of kept, we added that into our, into other next episodes. Just generally improving the quality of everything that we do. And the other thing is we try to involve the audience as well. We sent out a poll saying that what would you like to listen to? And when he said about involving people and making sure they like what we're doing. Right. So then we got like really nice response from them to think that these are some of the things. So the ones with the highest percentage of what people thought, we said, okay, let's take the audience choice favorite. So we have been taking feedback. We've been grateful to have a lot of good words coming in, and like normally, like from people who are closer to us, we get the hard stuff, and they're like, why don't you do this? And but it's all very useful, I think, and we've been able to take that in our stride, because we have been able to. There are small things which make a lot of sense, which suddenly add a lot to the production, and to what we do. So yeah, the feedback is super important, and the way we've been slowly changing over time, and we don't want to take a step down. That's the one thing we don't want. The level that we are in, we just want to keep going a little bit by just continuously improving. So it's very important, like you say, feedback as a part of all that we do.
The final topic I want to cover before we start wrapping things up. It's about how art touches everybody. Again, now I've created this question for you guys after all of this discussion, because I've been moved into asking this question almost, and I really want to hear your thoughts about it. So how art touches other people and then in turn touches the performer. I think, as an artist, you are moved by the the adrenaline and the actual the, for me, music, but for for you, your art and your storytelling and also music. It moves you in a certain way while you're performing it, and it in turn
Yeah.
moves the audience, and the audience being moved in turn moves you. So this is my experience with it, and I've come to realize after chatting with you guys that it's that I have it's been in the back of my mind, but I've never really been able to articulate it. What is your feeling of this? Like, is there any particular experience that you've had with regards to all of this, that you want to share?
Um, yeah, I mean, it definitely does something to you when you get the feedback coming back in from the audience. When you, especially when you've put in effort and a certain amount of practice and thing has gone in to what you're doing, getting a kind of validation of what you've done, it's a very important thing, I think. One thing is to inspire people who are listening or watching, or just to positively impact them. And then the other thing is that impacting you when they write to you or they show you love. So I think it makes a huge difference if for example we put out content and everybody liked it but nobody said anything about it. Then we would just not get feedback. We wouldn't know. We would know that it went well, but then for us also it matters a lot. Like public opinion matters a lot, or what people think of what we do.
I think my when you asked this question, I realized that feedback has meant different things in different contexts. But I'm going back to the program that we did in February last year, which was live. I think also a lot of the feedback we have not seen people after that largely absorbing our content, right? Like we put it out and then people absorb it. So in terms of live, and I keep telling Vivek this, we keep sharing how we're just itching to go back to the stage, because there's nothing that beats that that moment of seeing how people are responding to your content in that moment. And I'm remembering how during Divyakshi, this was towards the end of the show, and this was one of the penultimate stories that we were talking about. Vivek, this was before you sang Saraswati Manohari, and we were doing Mooka and Kamakshi. And I remember when I was telling the story, I just looked. So the hall was filled that day, and there was a mat in front of the stage, and people were sitting there. So when I was kind of finishing the story and I was in the last bits, I happened to look at that side, and I noticed that somebody teared up just listening to what was happening. And in that moment, I realized I didn't know what to say. I didn't blank out in the conventional sense of it. I realized for that 1 minute, I felt like I don't need to say anything. It's done. The purpose of what we came here for today is done. If one person left the room with teary eyes, then we created that feeling for them. We're really lucky that we got the chance to create that. So I think, like, from that moment on, I felt comfortable. Like, it was not that I was uncomfortable beyond that, but this is a different thing. It takes one into a different zone. It just felt like, you know what, we arrived. And not we arrived in terms of performers, or everything was technically perfect, so therefore we arrived. No, we arrived because people connected. And seeing people connect is just such a, I mean, I can go back to that incident 100 times and say, this is why we need to do more stuff, because this is the impact it has on people. So I definitely think feedback does affect us as well, and how good we feel about the work that we do.
Amazing. Okay. So, Vivek, is there anything you want to add to this?
Um, no, I mean, not particularly. I think we're very glad that we've got this opportunity to kind of, speak with you. And I
Yeah.
think it also brought out a lot of thoughts for us and the whole purpose of what we do. Sometimes moments like this kind of elevate that and make us, at least made me feel that we should be working more, and we should constantly keep doing things like this. So I would say even a discussion like this or talking with people like you, it's really motivating to kind of go ahead and do more.
And honestly,
Yeah,
like I could
absolutely.
speak to you guys forever. Like this is so interesting. This is like just right down my alley. And I love conversations like this. And I love watching your content. And as I've said across our, I don't even know how long we've been talking now, but I think I've said it a few times. And I really genuinely mean it. And I think it means a lot that you include your audience into it. So it becomes something larger than, I mean, it is already larger than yourselves from what you're speaking, how you collaborate and that you're going towards this goal of creating something. And that's the most important thing for you. But it's even more moving that you include the audience in this. So it becomes this huge thing and encompasses so many people, and everybody's view, everybody is involved in it and is somehow being affected by it. And I think that's what art needs to do. And it's a pleasure to have spoken with you both today. And I hope
Likewise.
we continue to have, even if they're not recorded conversations, but conversations nonetheless about these wonderful topics. And I look forward to hearing more of your content in the future as well.
Thank you, Mitali.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
guys.
so much. I think it's such a joy for us to someone who is on the same wavelength. It feels so nice to connect like this. So thank you for giving us this platform. I also feel really cool. I haven't been asked questions like this in a while. So thank you for giving us this.
Not at all. An absolute pleasure to meet you, Vinay. And because I'm meeting you for the first time, Vivek, an absolute pleasure to know you and meet you again. I meet you almost every
Just adding in it. Yeah.
I'm going to attach links down to their work, and so you can go and check them out and support them and give them feedback and get involved in this beautiful project. And see until next time. See you for the next conversation that I have with other fantastic artists. And thank you, Vinay and Vivek, for joining me today.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.